All right, what's going on, Hurricanes fans, man? Let's go ahead and talk about this hot topic on the Ultimate College Football Show that was revealed today. Tom Lloyd, obviously, brought on their guest. They said, can Carson Beck or is Carson Beck good enough to lead Miami to the college football playoff? It's a good question, right? Obviously, last year you had Cam Ward. They had an incredible season. It ended up falling short. They didn't get to college football playoff. They ended up losing their bowl game, obviously, to Iowa State. I'm going to go out the limb here, y'all, and say, I'm going to say no. I don't believe he is good enough to get Miami to a college football playoff. No disrespect. Again, I'm not trying to crap on the man. I'm not trying to say the man is not good, but it's a lot to get to college football playoff, okay? Cam Ward, I thought was one of the best quarterbacks this past year. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, was a Heisman finalist. Did everything he could. There was leaks and things like that. Obviously, Miami's hired a defensive coordinator. They're trying to shore up different things, had a decent recruiting class. But when I look at Miami, it does not have the team around Beck, I think, in order to be successful. Now, that's not to say they can't win games, but it's all a barometer stick. How do you measure success for Miami? Is it getting to the college football playoff? Is it making a deep run in the college football playoff? Is it winning 10 games? Because I think Beck can get you to 8 to 9 wins. But is that good enough to get into the college football playoff? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? That's a question that remains to be seen. But I think you got to have a lot of stuff around him for it to work. I think you got to have a good offensive line, which is obviously what he had at Georgia. Tate Ratledge, you know what I'm saying? All those guys over there was really elite for Georgia, right? I think to have great playmakers, right? This past year, that was not his fault. You know what I'm saying? I come out of the limit and say that was not his fault. A lot of players were dropping passes. Arian Smith, Dylan Bell, decent receivers. And you see Georgia's went to go buff that up. I think the receiving core for Miami will be pretty good. Running back room, they lose Damian Martinez. Who do they replace? Will the guy be ready? Will the guys be ready at running back? So I don't know, man. I feel like for Carson Beck to be successful, you got to have kind of a lot around him. You know what I'm saying? And the pieces have to all fit. You got to have a really good defense, I think, humbly. That's another underrated part that we're not talking about enough. Back then when they went to, SEC championships, Georgia's always had an elite defense, always had a pretty good defense. You know what I'm saying? Top 10, top 15 type unit, right? Always had guys that were up for finalist awards. Jim Thorpe, you know what I'm saying? All SEC, you know what I'm saying? All in those conversations, right? Does Miami have that this year? This past year was not a good year for the Hurricanes. And obviously they moved on, got a new DC. But it's hard to say. Like I told y'all, I think for Carson Beck, he has to have everything, beside him in order to kind of get to that level. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's not a guy that is going to overcome. I know you're going to look at me crazy and say, well, Cam Ward isn't either. But Cam Ward made it exciting, right? Cam Ward, they was losing games. He's bringing back comeback efforts, right? Putting up 30, 35-plus points. Remember, this Miami team scored the most amount of points this past year in college football, right? They hit the highest, I think, scoring average. One of the top scoring offenses regardless in the NCAA. That's a lot to ask of Carson Beck without having all of the requisite weapons. And I think that Coach Cristobal is going to need another year, maybe two, in order to kind of rectify that and get everything and how he wants to have the Hurricanes have a top 15, top 20 type defense. So I'm going to say right now, no. I don't think Beck is good enough to overcome the flaws, obviously, that Miami may have next year. I think they would be better. I do think they would be better. But is that enough for Carson Beck to lead it to college football playoff? I'm going to say no right now until proven otherwise, right? We got to see, right? We got to see how they perform, see how they do to obviously be one of the contenders in the ACC, along with a Clemson. You can probably throw Louisville in there with the addition of Miller Moss. So they should be in that conversation. But again, preseason rankings, preseason, all that stuff doesn't really mean nothing. The difference is when it happens on the field. But I want y'all to comment below. Is Carson Beck good enough to take Miami on a run to college football playoff and beyond? Y'all let me know in the comments.